Have you ever felt that your reputation, something that took years to build, could be destroyed in silence? Not because of one big mistake, but through small acts of self-neglect, piling up day after day. It's as if, little by little, you were erasing your own value in the eyes of others, and worse, in your own eyes. You notice looks that no longer carry respect, words that used to be heard with attention now go unnoticed. This invisible erosion comes not only from what others do, but from what you fail to do for yourself. And what if I told you that restoring your life and regaining lost respect doesn't begin with changing what the world thinks, but by changing what you tolerate in yourself? The Stoics remind us that true strength lies in mastering yourself before attempting to correct the external. Marcus Aurelius said, "The dignity of your life depends on the dignity of your thoughts." Perhaps what's missing isn't others' acceptance, but your own acceptance that you deserve more than the life you've been living. If this is your first time here on the channel, I ask you to support me by subscribing and liking this video so I can continue creating teachings like this in the future. Together we can create a space where inner strength and clarity become a daily reality. And I want you to comment, "I choose to win my battles without losing my peace." This will be your declaration that you're ready to strengthen your reputation, restore your life, and put an end to self-neglect. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Before any reconstruction of reputation, you must look inward and identify where you have abandoned yourself. Self-neglect is a silent betrayal of your own essence. It appears when you constantly put your needs last, ignore signs of exhaustion, or repeatedly break promises to yourself. This inner abandonment corrodes your strength and, over time, how the world sees you. Imagine someone who lives to please others, always available to solve everyone's problems, yet never makes time to care for their own health or mind. Outwardly, they seem helpful. Inside, they accumulate fatigue, resentment, and a constant feeling of being undervalued. This dynamic eventually erodes others' respect because it shows that the person doesn't consider themselves a priority. And if you don't prioritize yourself, why would others? Seneca said, "The wise man takes care of himself as his most precious possession." This care is not a luxury but a foundation. Recognizing the root of self-neglect means realizing it's not a lack of time or ability. It's a lack of awareness of your own worth. When you allow small concessions to accumulate, you silently accept living below what you deserve. Left unchecked, this pattern becomes your normal. The Stoic lesson here is simple yet challenging. Before trying to change how the world treats you, change what you tolerate in yourself. That means setting clear boundaries, refusing tasks that sacrifice your peace, and creating routines that sustain your mental and physical strength. It's not selfishness. It's ensuring you have the resources to face life without breaking apart. This awareness can be painful because it forces you to face the fact that you've often been complicit in your own downfall. But it's also liberating because it shows that the key to change has always been in your hands. Once you decide to close the door to self-neglect, you begin the process of restoring not just your reputation, but your identity. And now that you recognize how and where you began to abandon yourself, be ready. Next, we'll explore how to identify and eliminate the subtle habits that are destroying your image without you even noticing. Epictetus said, "What ruins a man is not what he does not know, but what he thinks he knows that isn't true." Often we believe that small slip-ups have no impact, but it's precisely these small cracks that slowly destroy credibility. Chronic lateness, broken commitments, forgotten promises, or even the way you speak about yourself can act like invisible fractures. At first they seem harmless, but over time they compromise the entire structure of your reputation. Think of someone who always arrives late, even to the most important meetings. The message is not just a lack of punctuality, but a lack of respect for others' time. Or imagine someone who constantly self-deprecates to earn sympathy, without realizing they are teaching others to see them as someone of little value. These repeated behaviors shape how we are perceived, and often, without realizing it, they become our signature. The Stoics remind us that habits shape character and character shapes reputation. Therefore, Eliminating harmful patterns requires daily discipline and self-awareness. You must observe yourself as if you were a stranger, analyzing each gesture, word, and reaction. When you notice something that diminishes your image, cut it at the root. This isn't about changing to please others, but about aligning your actions with the respect and dignity you want to inspire. Replacing bad habits with strengthening practices is like swapping broken bricks for solid stones in building a house. Keeping your word, speaking with clarity, and acting with integrity are silent signs of strength that people notice without you announcing them. Gradually, trust rebuilds, and the world begins to respond differently. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's a process of constant vigilance where every small victory counts. The most important thing to understand is that every gesture, no matter how small, is a seed planted in the perception of others. If those seeds are coherence, respect, and discipline, the harvest will be an unshakable reputation. And now that you're learning to remove what weakens your image, the next step will reveal how to develop a presence so solid that it inspires respect before you even say a word. Seneca wrote, "Conduct is the mirror in which everyone sees your soul." Long before you say a word, your posture, your gestures, and even the way you occupy space communicate who you are. A solid, balanced presence generates instant respect without needing explanations. Unfortunately, many focus only on what they will say and forget that the body and energy also speak, and speak loudly. Think about the difference between someone who walks into a room with steady steps, a calm gaze, and an upright posture, and another who arrives restless, eyes on the floor, seeking approval. The first radiates security, even in silence. The second, no matter how eloquent their words, is perceived as insecure. First impressions are formed in the first few seconds and are difficult to change afterward. Stoicism teaches that you don't need to shout to be heard. Emotional mastery is reflected in composed gestures, steady breathing, and facial expressions that align with inner serenity. This energy is sensed almost instinctively by people, making your presence respected effortlessly. It's the power of strategic calm in action. To develop this presence, practice being fully conscious of yourself. Adjust your posture, control your tone of voice, maintain balanced eye contact, and learn to pause before responding. These simple but consistent actions serve as silent signals of authority. They show that you know yourself and exactly what you're doing, even under pressure. This presence isn't built overnight. It's trained like a muscle. The more you practice self-awareness and calm, the more natural it becomes. People begin to associate your image with stability and reliability, two qualities that strengthen any reputation. And now that you understand the value of conveying authority without uttering a single word, let's move on to the Stoic strategy that turns silence into a powerful weapon to strengthen your image and your life. Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes stronger when it remains with itself." In a world where everyone wants to speak, respond, and justify themselves all the time, silence has become a rarity, and precisely because of that, it's a powerful weapon. It's not about withholding opinions out of fear, but mastering the art of waiting for the right moment to speak. This control increases the weight of your words and the perception of your authority. Imagine being in a heated meeting where everyone tries to talk over one another. While some raise their voices, you remain calm, attentive, and clearly listening. When you finally decide to speak, your words carry more force because they were chosen with care. The silence before you speak creates expectation and shows confidence. It's as if every pause were a reminder that you are not driven by others' rush. Stoicism teaches that silence is a form of response. Not reacting immediately to provocations or unnecessary comments is an act of self-control. This posture protects your energy, avoids useless conflicts, and sends a clear message that you are not easily manipulated by the emotions of the moment. In this context, silence is a conscious decision, not an absence of action. In many situations, speaking less ensures that every sentence is relevant. It keeps you from getting lost in excessive explanations or justifications, which often weaken your position. Well-applied silence gives the other person space to reveal more than they intended, while you remain the strategic observer. This ability takes practice. It means becoming comfortable in the emptiness of words, without the need to fill every moment with sound. It's in fact a demonstration that your presence alone is enough to convey value. The more you master silence, the more naturally respect comes your way. And since we've talked about the power of remaining silent at the right time, in the next step, you'll discover how to rebuild your reputation through small daily victories that quietly rewrite the way the world sees you. Epictetus stated, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Rebuilding a reputation is not a grand event, but a sequence of small, consistent actions. Each gesture of discipline, each honored commitment, and each kept promise is like a brick laid in the structure that supports others' respect. It's a quiet process, almost invisible in daily life, yet powerful over time. Imagine someone who lost credibility due to past mistakes. Trying to win it back with eloquent speeches or grand promises rarely works. But by demonstrating punctuality, delivering tasks ahead of schedule, and acting with coherence, that person sends an unspoken message: "I've changed." People watch actions far more than they listen to words, and that's the path to rebuilding what was broken. Stoicism teaches that progress is made through steady, consistent steps, not impulsive leaps. Small victories, such as remaining calm in the face of provocation or acting with honesty even without supervision, are signs of inner strength. These moments are not isolated wins. Together they form the solid foundation of a restored reputation. These victories also strengthen self-esteem. Each day you keep a promise to yourself. You prove you can remain faithful to your own principles. That inner confidence is reflected in your posture, speech, and decisions, creating a positive cycle where internal and external respect feed each other. What's most interesting is that this process doesn't depend on immediate approval. Often the change is noticed slowly, but when it becomes evident, no one can deny it. That's because it wasn't built to impress. It was built to be real, sustained by consistency and integrity. And since we're talking about consolidating results, the next step will show you how to protect this new reputation by shielding your mind from opinions and criticisms that aim to sabotage your progress. Seneca warned, "If you care too much about what others think, you will always be a slave to everyone." The reputation you've worked so hard to build can be weakened if your mind remains vulnerable to outside voices. The truth is, not all criticism has value, and not every opinion deserves your attention. The secret is to develop an internal filter to absorb only what builds and reject what destroys. Think of someone who changes their behavior with every comment they receive. This instability sends a message of insecurity and lack of conviction. No matter how competent they are, their reputation becomes fragile because they are always at the mercy of external approval. The Stoic, however, stands firm. They listen, evaluate, and, if useful, adjust. If not, they move forward without being shaken. Shielding your mind doesn't mean ignoring everything. It means choosing carefully what deserves to enter. It's about understanding that some criticism can be an opportunity for growth, while others are poison disguised as advice. When you keep clarity about your values, you avoid getting lost trying to please everyone, and that reinforces your image as someone authentic and consistent. This stance also requires courage to stay true to your own path, even when external pressures try to steer you away. Stoicism teaches that only you control your reactions, and handing over that control to others is giving away your own freedom. Being unshakable in the face of others' opinions is a silent act of power. By protecting your mind, you protect your decisions, and by protecting your decisions, you protect your reputation. This inner strength is reflected in the way people treat you, not as someone who bends at the first push, but as a rock that stands firm regardless of the tide. And since we've spoken about firmness and constancy, in the next step, you'll discover how self-discipline can be the invisible engine that sustains both your life and your image day after day. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "He who conquers himself conquers all." Self-discipline is the backbone of any solid reputation. Without it, even the most inspiring changes fade over time. Discipline is what keeps you focused when motivation weakens, what guarantees consistency when circumstances change. It is the invisible link between what you say you will do and what you actually deliver. Imagine someone who decides to get organized, wake up early, take care of their body and mind. At first, energy is high, but soon excuses appear. Just for today, I'll sleep in. I'll make up for it tomorrow. Without discipline, the new routine collapses, and along with it, the image of commitment. The Stoic, however, stays the course, not because it's always easy, but because the decision to continue outweighs the desire to quit. Stoicism sees self-discipline as a form of freedom. By controlling your impulses, you stop being a slave to immediate desires and become the architect of your own life. This is reflected in your posture. Disciplined people project confidence, coherence, and strength. Even without saying a word, they inspire respect because they are a living example of constancy. Maintaining discipline doesn't mean living in rigid austerity, but creating standards that keep you close to your best self. It's about doing what needs to be done, even when no one is watching, and even on the days when you don't feel like it. This silent consistency builds a reputation that can withstand both time and circumstances. Every day you honor your inner commitments, you reinforce not just your image in the eyes of others, but also your own self-trust. That's the foundation for keeping everything you've built so far. Without discipline, success is temporary. With it, it becomes legacy. And if until now we've talked about building and sustaining your image, next we'll dive into how to maintain clarity and balance even in the most turbulent times when everything seems to be conspiring against you. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Anyone can remain calm when everything is under control, but it's in chaos, in unexpected crises, intense conflicts, sudden losses, that true character is revealed. Maintaining clarity and balance in these moments not only preserves your reputation, it elevates it to a level of authority that few can reach. Imagine a leader facing a major failure in a project. While everyone else is restless, they take a deep breath, gather the facts, and make decisions calmly. This behavior inspires immediate confidence because it shows that no matter how fierce the storm, there is someone in control who is not swayed by panic. This composure is the result of mental training and emotional preparation, not luck. Stoicism teaches you to prepare for the unexpected before it arrives. That means accepting that life is uncertain and that total control is an illusion. By internalizing this truth, you build an internal reserve of serenity. When chaos comes, it's not a paralyzing surprise, but a reality you've already built responses for. Clarity in hard times also prevents rash decisions. A calm mind analyzes better, sees solutions that anxiety hides, and therefore makes more precise choices. These sound decisions protect both your results and how people perceive you. Your reputation becomes tied to stability and trustworthiness. Balance doesn't mean the absence of emotions, but mastery over them. It's recognizing what you feel without letting it dictate your actions in a destructive way. It is, in essence, the inner control that turns critical moments into opportunities to demonstrate strength. And now that we've walked this entire path, from the root of self-neglect to mastery and chaos, it's time to unite all these pieces in the conclusion, so you can see how to apply all of this definitively to your life and your reputation. You began this journey facing a silent pain, the feeling that your reputation and your life were slowly wearing down, not because of one mistake, but through a series of small acts of neglect toward your own essence. Along the way, we saw that it's not the external world that defines your worth, but the internal choices you keep. Today, you know that self-neglect is like invisible rust, and restoring your strength begins by recognizing, eliminating, and replacing the habits that weaken you. Stoicism reminds us that you don't need to defeat the world, only yourself. By cultivating presence, using silence as a weapon, shielding your mind from destructive criticism, and sustaining it all with self-discipline, you become unshakable. As Marcus Aurelius said, you don't have to win over others, you have to win over yourself. This is the hardest victory, and also the only one no one can take from you. If you've made it this far, it means you are willing to live with wisdom and stoic strength. So leave a comment. I choose stoic strength. Let this phrase be your public commitment to a life guided by clarity, mastery of the mind, and integrity. That way, every step you take will be a silent testament that it is possible to restore your life, rebuild your reputation, and live above the pressures and noise of the world.